Then, at a deadly pace, it came from outer space. This is your spooky look at the McFarlane Toys 3D wall hanging art of the Rocky Horror Picture Show. It's a stormy night and Janet and Brad are stranded outside the castle of Dr. Frankenfurter. Seeking shelter from the rain, the couple stumbles into a bizarre situation with a sweet transvestite from transsexual Transylvania, as he attempts to create, a la Dr. Frankenstein, someone who will love him for who he is. McFarlane's pop culture masterworks has created the Rocky Horror Picture Show movie poster in 3D raised illustration. It's a whole new dimension to the cult classic that has had fans singing "Damn It, Janet" for more than 25 years. McFarlane Toys artists crafted the highly detailed poster using modern sculpting methods and the technique of forced perspective. The Rocky Horror Picture Show comes to life in this 8.5 by 12 1/4 by 2-inch format that can be hung on the wall or displayed on a tabletop as a tribute to one of the greatest cult films ever made. Before we lose the room to let's do the time warp again, I'm all fine and good for that, but we got to get this review underway as well. The first thing we're going to do is figure out how tall the pop culture masterworks poster of the Rocky Horror Picture Show actually is. Technically, on the back of the box, it does list this as being 12 1/4 inches in height. But you know me, I'm all about double checking that stuff. And in fact, looking at my trusty tape measure, it's not 12 1/4. It's actually 13 inches exactly, or 13.1. And switching that to centimeters, then you're looking at the poster being 33.2 centimeters tall. Now, the Rocky Horror Picture Show was first released September 26, 1975, which would predate this humbled reviewer's birth by 3 years. You could probably start doing the math of calculating how old I actually am. It is also one of the longest-running films in cinema history, simply because it's become an annual tradition that many theaters play this movie during Halloween, with a lot of the time the patrons showing up dressed themselves in drag similar to the characters in the film. And probably this year may be a different circumstance altogether. I don't think many theaters would be playing the Rocky Horror Picture Show, let alone anything else. I'm sure that would not prevent, though, fans of the film watching it in their own private viewing around in their living room. I myself, from personal experience, never used to like this movie, but only took it upon myself last year to give it a try. Well, that was last year, and now this year marks a 2-year back-to-back viewing. And I could probably see myself watching this movie annually now, every single year during Halloween. Nonetheless, though, let's get a closer look at the poster here. Now, it's essentially a statue, if you really want to consider it. It's something that you can either put on display on a desk, for example, like I currently have right now, or you can also mount it onto a wall. And I'll show you guys how that works. This pop culture replica of the Rocky Horror Picture Show was actually released in 2007. Still remember the time that I saw this at Toys R Us and I passed on it completely. I picked up every other 3D poster, but decided I didn't want to get the Rocky Horror Picture Show because I didn't even know much about the film at the time that this was first came out. However, though, I did pick this up on eBay, and I thought I got it for a pretty good price. It's not as expensive as, say, the Friday the 13th or the Nightmare on Elm Street 3D posters that we've looked at already on this channel. The neat thing about the Rocky Horror Picture Show 3D poster is it's literally 3D. And I know that makes it sound like I'm sort of making fun of it. But if you compare it to like the Nightmare on Elm Street one, the Nightmare on Elm Street one really wasn't one that was best suited to stand. They did change that with a lot of the later released ones, giving us an actual spine. And in this case, it actually looks like an old VHS tape, with the bloodied font of the Rocky Horror Picture Show running down the length of the spine. As a nice touch that I do like, at the bottom of it, they've put McFarlane Toys, obviously the maker of this, but it kind of also is in the same place where you'd normally see VHS, if anybody remembers what VHS is. It's a thick enough standee that I don't feel like it's going to fall over. I feel a little more secure the idea that I could mount this or just display this on a desk. But as I've done with all my other 3D movie posters, this particular one also does have the option on the back. There's this little bracket right here that all you have to do is mount a nail or thumbtack to the wall, and this just sits on top of it. As you can see, the back, it's seen somewhat better days. This was brand new, by the way, when I bought it. But it does have all these noticeable little scuff marks. I'm not really even sure why it has all these little scuffed areas there on the back. But one other thing that's interesting about it is this area right here, I think is the same place where the battery compartment was for the also the Alien 3D poster that McFarlane Toys released. So I'm wondering if they've replaced this back section, because I got to feel like this is the same back area that they used for some of the other 3D posters. And they've just changed the battery compartment instead to being the 1975 and then subsequently the 2006 20th Century re-release located here on the back. Again, like for me, I'm probably going to mount this as I've done with all the other 3D posters. But in this case, it is actually something that would look rather nice sitting on a desk. If you're certainly a big fan of the Rocky Horror Picture Show, this would be an ideal thing to be putting on your desk, maybe next to your PC or your monitor. Obviously, you guys are going to want to see a closer look at what the poster looks like, and it's really a nice looking poster if you like Rocky Horror Picture Show. It does depict the opener of the movie with the Lips singing science fiction double feature. The irony, I'm sure many of fans already know this, but the Lips that lip-synced that song was Patricia Quinn, who was actually the same actress who played the character Magenta in the movie. I'm sure you probably already know that. The lips are extremely detailed. I'm very impressed with the way that they, even right down to the fact that they've got the bit bottom lip. Very nice touch on McFarlane's part. As you can see, it's three-dimensional though, so like this whole bottom back area here is sunken in. The lips, as well as the font of the movie, are all raised forward. I do like the shimmer and gleam that they've got to the actual surface of the lips, and they do texture in the same similar fashion that lips actually would look. I really do like this coloring right here, these lighter little bands of white. It does really, from a closer look, yes, it does look painted. But when you look at it from a distance, boy, does that ever pop. It looks like the lips are shiny and glossy. In addition to that, I really do like that they've airbrushed the top areas of the teeth. So they're not perfectly white. Again, these are things that the details get lost a bit when the closer you see it. But when you look at it from a distance, it's those airbrushed colors along the tops of the teeth that just add a little bit of shadowing that the top lip is casting onto the teeth themselves. Then, of course, down below, we've got Rocky Horror Picture Show, all very bloodied and presented here. Just to kind of show you how that works, if I tilt it up, they're literally being suspended by these individual posts. Now, still, you would be careful that if this fell on itself, these would probably break. But at least it seems a little more secure, unlike, say, the Nightmare on Elm Street glove. That glimmer light, I'm surprised I have not broken that yet, knock on wood. But you do have that very nice, slick, wet look that goes along with the Rocky Horror Picture Show, looking like it's running blood. Down below that, of course, a play off Jaws. It says a different set of Jaws. Very, very cool looking poster. Now, the neat thing about the poster also as well is it's also bordered in white. Now, within that border are secondary borders as well. A bold, solid black line. In fact, let me just show you a closer look at it. You can see these little grooved edges here. These are all done. Actually, this outer area has been panel lined, and then the little groove in the middle is actually sunken in. And then you've got the white line on the outside. So it does give a good level of depth to it. While it's not the most exciting thing to look at, certainly from the back, the best way to display this is, again, one of two ways. You can either mount this onto the wall, which is probably what I'm going to be doing, or if I eventually get to the idea of renovating my office, which is something I've been putting off and putting off and putting off. Maybe, you never know, I might actually take a lot of these 3D posters that McFarlane Toys have produced and might find myself even just displaying them on the desk, though they're probably going to be taking up a fair bit of space. Ideally, these are great for individual fans of the Rocky Horror Picture Show, but again, like, they're good for anybody that's been collecting these 3D movie posters. These were coming out big and popular back in 2007, and since then we really haven't gotten anything. I hope McFarlane Toys sees now, with the success that his toy line is doing now with the DC Multiverse figures and of course the Spawn figures and the Mortal Kombat figures, branch out and go back to basics. Your basics was your movie Maniacs, which of course everybody would be excited to see those coming back. But I would also be thrilled to see these 3D posters come back as well. Maybe tackling some of the movies that he hasn't done before, because I think he's only done about 7 or 8 of these. Would love to see him do more, even of current movies, something of which the Rocky Horror Picture Show wasn't, dating far, far back to 1975. Now, I'm going to throw this question out there. I don't know how many people will actually admit to it, but how many of the viewing audience here actually saw the Rocky Horror Picture Show when it first came to theaters in 1975? I don't know how many people will actually admit that. I didn't, because obviously I wasn't born yet. I would have to wait 3 years before my birth happened. But of course, Rocky Horror Picture Show has been played subsequently afterwards every single year. Theaters would be flocked with fans of the film, all dressed in drag, wanting to sing along with the songs for the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And admittingly, I never used to like this movie at all. I think I probably just caught a glance of it, or just assumed based on what I saw it wasn't going to be a film for me. But now, 2 years back to back, this year I've already watched it. Next year I'll be watching it again. And it will easily become an annual tradition, I'm sure, in my household during the Halloween season. One other thing that, as I mentioned at the end of this review, I would love to see McFarlane Toys go back to doing these pop culture masterwork posters. One of the ideas that I think I saw somebody, I can't take credit for this, but somebody posted online talking about how they'd like to see this line come back. And they used the example of the 1990 poster of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And I looked at that and I thought, yeah, that would be a fun poster done in 3D. They have, of course, already done the original Alien. They've done RoboCop. They've done Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th. They've done Rocky. I'm trying to think of what other ones they've done. But I've collected all of them. The only one I never collected was this one until now. And boy, I did ever luck out by finding this one online. I found a seller on eBay that had a brand new version of this one, and I couldn't resist. I've now sort of been hooked by the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and I feel like, again, not only will I be watching this every single year, but now I can finally put this poster on display with the rest of them the way it should have been right from day one. Would you guys be interested in seeing 3D posters coming back from McFarlane Toys? And if that be the case, what posters would you guys like to see presented in this 3D format? I'd love to read your comments down below. And also, if you're new to the channel and you're liking the content you're seeing, perhaps you are the person in the back with your hand up that you did see the original airing release of Rocky Horror Picture Show back in 1975. But let's just say you're new to this channel and liking the content. Make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Turn the bell notification on. Yes, I know it's also way past Spottober, but why not? We'll throw out a couple more spooky-related videos in the next coming weeks. Keep your peepers peeled, members of the mob and fans of the Rocky Horror Picture Show, because there's definitely a lot of content coming your way. So as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.